Grand Rising, beautiful Elizabeth. This is a wonderful day. This is the day that God has made, and we shall rejoice in it. We shall celebrate life.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday was my birthday and my Earth Day. That's the day I decided to come here, and
Mm-hmm.
I also received the sperm of the Elizabeths on February 1st, 31 years ago. And I'm still excited about the Elizabeths and what God is doing. And as well, Joy's birthday is, Earth Day is today, February the 2nd. And we talked about the portal, coming through the portal as well. And
Wow.
and my grand rising partner, Miss Lolly. Lolly, you look like are you still sleepy a little bit?
I am. I am.
Well,
Yes.
grand rising anyway, right?
Yes. Grand Rising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
So can I get one of the young ladies to walk me through what I'm not doing? Because I don't see anything that is telling me how to get it off of this nun screen. So I'm really
Are
trying.
you on the laptop?
Yes, I am.
So down in the bottom corner, left-hand side, is there anything that comes up
It says
when you go
mute,
to?
stop video,
Start
participant.
video. Hit start video.
Okay, it said start video, but now it put an X on there. So stop video.
You don't see anything that looks like a camera?
It says select HP HD camera. That's selected already.
Okay.
So choose virtual background, choose video. So it's got me showing a virtual background. Is that what you guys seeing?
no, it's just black.
Black.
So isn't if I'm correct, when you start up, I think you can test your mute and I mean your audio and your camera.
Okay.
So you may have to go off and come back in and then do the testing.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, babe. Yeah. Lolly, you got something to start us off? Oh, you got something?
Well, I actually I had a video and I can't find this video anywhere anymore for some reason. So scratch that. Um, but what I really was intrigued about, and I was thinking about this week is life. And this is Passion and Purpose Fridays. And so we're always talking about following our passions and our purpose in our own lives. But we did mention that yesterday was Queen's birthday. And so with that being said, I would just like to first acknowledge Queen Aduni for her birthday. Yes, yes, yes.
And
I,
Joy's birthday today.
and Joy's birthday today.
Thank you.
Well, really, I want to ask some questions. I really want you to share, Queen, I wanted you to share a little bit about your journey, but specifically, I wanted you to speak on I guess the birth of your child. So you literally just mentioned, the Elizabeths and everything that you were forming. And I just want you to speak on the birth process. Just speaking of the birth process of like all the work that you did, all the things that God did for you in order for this to come to pass. Because this is a milestone, like this, having this platform is a milestone. And having all of these powerful women in one space on a regular is such a milestone. So if you could just speak a little bit on that, I would appreciate hearing that because this is your passion and purpose in your life.
Mm-hmm. So when I was turning 40, because I'm turning 40, and my mom told me about Dr. Miles Monroe, who was was a preacher from, I don't even want to say preacher. He was a pastor of his church, but he was a teacher. He didn't preach and hoop and holler and stuff like that. He was deep in his thoughts. And but he came to the United States, and he was on a show, the TBN, and he talked about passion and purpose, specifically purpose, like I had never heard anyone speak on, right? And so I said, when Mama told me about it, I said, well, I want to go see them. And it was my birthday, and I said, Lord, give me a gift. So, I like invited, how you invite the guy in on a date. And you didn't know you was gonna get pregnant that night. And what he talked about was the passion and the 20 principles of how God sent his vision, who Jesus Christ, to earth to do the work. And so he said those things were an ensample and not an example. Example being something like, ensample being exactly like. So those 20 principles are things that we go through in bringing forth our babies, our visions and dreams. And I was like Oprah with Color Purple. I started giving that out to everybody. And what was so cool was when I was sitting there, we see your picture, Denise. I was sitting there when they were
Oh, beautiful. Look at her.
signing the books and stuff. And I was sitting there right beside Dr. Monroe, and some friend of mine comes up to sign, get the signature. And then she looks at me, she said, what you doing sitting there, And then he looks at me and he turns back to her, he said, it's because I am her Elizabeth. That was it. That was it. So there came a time after that, I was passing it out to everybody, and it came a time that it was time for me to make a decision. And I invited all my girls, Elizabeths, and I wanted just the female energy of that. And so that's what showed up. About 15 sisters showed up, and we had miracles happening and all that kind of stuff, And when I went to the car after it was over, and I got in the car and ready to start it up, and the Spirit said, now, so the next one, I said, the next one, that's, and so it's been like that. And it's just been bringing sisters together, and I have a lot of course, Elizabeth's are male and female, because it's about being pregnant with visions and dreams. And so from there, I definitely have gone through it being in its baby stage, and it's being in its teenage stage. And it didn't matter. I had a vision.
What's wrong with you?
I had a vision of yeah, I had a vision of it being at the Embassy Hotel, and everybody would be in their spaces in their hotel, and that would be where you would do your vending, is from your own space. And so if I came to your space, Lolly, in your room, it would be music, and it would be this. I came to Mama Evelyn's, it would be art, and so on and so forth. But it didn't end up, I never ended up getting that. I booked it many times, but it never happened. And then COVID came, and we started doing it online. And from there, we end up with this. I can't even remember when I said, when all of this came together as a full program, of doing this online. But when it did, I followed suit. We did it a few times online since the COVID. We had done it every year since then. And I would do like that day, the day of my birthday, and have about 3 or 4 hours and different women coming on and speaking. And then we ended up with what we have now. Yeah,
Yeah.
really the yeah, and I do. I look at it like Fame. It's your baby. You know, all of you know that thing that is really important to you, that brings you joy. When you see it, when you're in it, you can feel it. And you know that, especially when you understand that your child, even my son, is not, he just came through me, and I appreciate him choosing me. And that's how Elizabeth. So I've even started writing a book about my life as Elizabeth, and those principles, and what happened that lines those principles, how my life lines up with that. And I asked Dr. Miles Monroe if was that cool, that could I use that? And he said, yeah. And of course he would write my foreword, but he's gone now. So but Dr. Miles represented teaching, not preaching.
Mm-hmm.
And really understanding our purpose. And even when I heard him tell Jerome Edmondson, he told him, your purpose, he said, I don't want to see you in no church preaching. Your ministry are to business people. So it's important to know who your target is.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you here for? And when you're in church, everything is about what you're supposed to do in the church, but that's not really it. You have to find out where your people are. And so God brings you all to this platform. And so I'm very sensitive to it, and it helps me to be sensitive to my life, to my business and such. And I'm super glad that where we are right now, God brings the people for it. Like Omani coming in at this point, you coming in at the point that you did, Joy coming, everybody, it's just beautiful. So that's basically it.
Okay. I do have a follow-up question.
Okay.
So the follow-up is when we are birthing something, when we're carrying this big purpose and this passion that we have, we end up learning in the process. We end up learning so much about ourselves. So what was maybe one of the biggest things that you learned about yourself in the process of bringing this to fruition?
That I am the fullness of Elizabeth, and I embody that.
Mm.
And I speak to people from that. And and then they get excited. I said, see, because look, we talking about this, and then I see it. So seeing people respond, and knowing what that is, other than, oh, we had a really good talk, but knowing that I've tapped into their passion, and then learning what to do with that and how to guide people, or to just work with it. That's good. It's delicious. And I know when a person isn't in there, they have not matured to that point. And so that's really is understanding what my purpose is. And that's when I am the one, Rev, I got this from Landmark. I am the one who creates the space and the opportunities for people to express and experience their full self-expression. People talk about what they want to do, but many don't get the opportunity to do it. And even more from that percentage never get paid well for doing it. So that's what my purpose is here on earth. And I embrace it totally, because it totally makes sense from me, from my childhood. It totally makes sense. Denise, are you here? We see your beautiful picture. let me see, ask to unmute. Are you here with us, Denise? Okay, I guess she's still working on it.
Yeah, can you unmute her?
No, I can ask her to unmute.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Did that answer your question?
Oh, it did. It did. What I wanted, what I'm really getting at, and I guess the reason why I'm asking these the reason I'm asking these questions is not just because I want you to repeat, your journey just because, but it's also because I know that so many people on this call are really living and walking into in their purpose and are learning to use their passion as fuel and as a foundation for like this purpose building. And so a lot of times, sometimes hearing people's stories of, their walk, of their Elizabeth journey, can really be something that's inspiring. I guess my next question was, was there ever a time where you hindered yourself, or not even that, that's not even the question I wanted to ask for real. The question I really wanted to ask was, well, was there times when you showed gratitude even though the outcome is not what you exactly envisioned, but it was still, of course, your purpose to fulfill, but it just didn't look exactly like how you thought it was? How did you still show gratitude even in the midst of that?
Oh, well, I mean, look at this. I saw it at a hotel once a year. We're doing this every day, 5 days a week. I trust God in my passion. I trust God. And I mean, period, right? And by that, I know I get joy when that happens. I know that I can only see so much, and God will show me so much based on what I'm doing, because ain't no need in him showing me all the other stuff and I'm not doing this part right here. So I do that, and then the next thing comes, and like I said, I really can tap into a person's passion, and if they're there or not, or is not even in the conversations, you know. Have I gotten discouraged? Not really. Because the passion is the leaping. That's really what it is. It's the energy and a person responding to that. Now, events and stuff like that, yeah, you can get a little discouraged, but I still am in a total state of gratitude because I really believe that who's supposed to show up will show up. And then there's next year, it would always, well, next year we'll make it to the hotel. Well, I don't know when the hotel is going to come. But right now, this is where that platform is. So if there's any time that I'm discouraged, and that's really a much larger word, but is when people don't know what their passion is and not even interested in diving into it. It's one thing not to know and just, can you help me? Or, I really would like to know, especially when you see all these seniors and stuff, they are leaving their jobs and stuff. When COVID hit and people don't even know what to do with the time that they had available to them because they got to get back to that job and be a machine. Yeah, that's a discouraging point right then. But then, I let them know that I'm here. You want to talk and find out what that is. But some just don't. That's discouraging when people just don't want to know, don't want to dive in. They are just, they're content with whatever it is right now. But as far as that concern, even as far as the school, my business is concerned, I'm seeing that there's a period of time, because let me tell you, I was unstoppable. When I first started and young and out there promoting and doing shows and all that kind of stuff. And then, life hits in another way. And then you're over here taking care of some other things and had to downsize and had to deal with court and people closing the building and all that kind of stuff. But every day I still got up to open the business. No matter if I had to shop, the salon had to shut down. All we did was went to another location. We never closed. We just kept going because life was doing what it's doing, and we had to adjust to that. As far as my passion, and I think that there's your passion and there's your assignment.
Mhm.
And I was doing my assignment, which was to run the school for my family, and my whole family, they all migrated here to do that. But now it's time for me to do what I'm passionate about, which is event planning. This is just another event. And then we're doing the other things. And when I told God, I said, why you have me doing this? Because I had to deal with my cousin and my sister and their attitudes and stuff. And then, of course, my attitude with their attitude. But God says, just as clear as I'm speaking to you all, and you're speaking to me, it is the key to all the things you want to do. And that's when I said, without using the words, be it unto me, because I didn't know those words until the Elizabeth thing. But I said, okay. And then it was on since then. Now, since then, I have found out really what it is for, because God said, I give you the desires of your heart. And if my sister Doris, but Doris didn't have the, she operates from the skill and the talent, the natural talent. She's an artist. And I operate from, are they paying you? So I'm the business head of that and have always been since a little girl. I was the leader. I was the oldest girl and always made sure we had fun and, took care of what mama wanted taken care of. Let me see if my girl, Denise, are you on, babe? I see you.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can.
I'm just not able to show the video. That's crazy, but I can hear you all. It's just not picking up my video, so I don't
Your
understand.
picture different from where you in yellow, right?
Yes.
Okay, but you're speaking from a different
Okay, so let's see, because I was on my phone for 1 minute and I said, well, let me go back to at least where I can hear everything. So I think you might be hearing me from my, nope, I think you're hearing me from my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see you.
So that's the picture in the yellow.
Okay. Okay.
And so I'm still connected to my laptop, which is where I was trying to get the photo. So
okay. We have the photo and we have the voice in another. See, one way or another, you put it together.
my apologies, lady. It's just awesome. I work from home on Fridays. And so I'm able to get, when I'm logged in on my company's network, but I got off of that because, this is my private business. So I don't know if that's what's causing it, whatever, but peace and blessings to everyone this morning.
Okay, so Lolly, was that good enough?
Oh yes, that was wonderful. I appreciate you for sharing. I just, especially because it was around your birthday. I think a lot of times we don't give people the platform, even though you have a platform every day, but like sometimes we don't acknowledge that people have their own stories to tell. And sometimes it's like, oh, they've told their story already. But I wanted to really highlight that passion and purpose that came from you in this space just because I wanted people to really appreciate that is why we're here in this moment, and that if you are in alignment with your assignment, then you could be encouraged and you can know to have gratitude in this walk and in this journey and be more excited about this journey because you can actually hear people's I guess you could say testimonies for lack of better words.
Yeah.
So that's why I just wanted to highlight you and your story with this. That was my biggest thing. So yes, that was good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for asking. And well, today we have a picture and a voice in a different box of Denise Avery. And I've met Denise through Ray and Edwana. And Ray said, Queen, you have to meet this sister, queen to queen, right? And when I talked to her that same day, she is an amazing sister. And we were kind of talking about, I think we had mentioned Martha Jean the other day. We were talking about her and Pukram, and I couldn't remember her name, Pukram, Dr. Pukram, but has worked with them. And so if you can, from your voice, the voice box, share more, Denise, about who you are and why you are.
Okay, my name is Sister Denise Mohammed Avery, and I am 67 years old. I'm a mother of 5, a grandmother of 8, and a great-grandmother of 4 children, which has been an amazing journey for me. And so my purpose started, I should say, I started investing in my life mission when I turned my dreams into my mission, which was my purpose. And that was when I believe God put me on the path at a young age to be consciously aware of seeing the sisterhood of women. And so in middle school, I couldn't understand why girls could be so mean towards one another. And then when I became an adult, it appeared to me that as women, we all suffered from low self-esteem. And that began to separate us. You know, we put ourselves in our own individual boxes in terms of educated and uneducated, light against dark, fat against small, you know, and long hair against short hair. And we began all these differences. But then as I got older, I could see that no matter what color or size we were all suffering from the same form or another. As Black women, we were suffering in abuse, we were suffering in sexual abuse, we were suffering in low self-esteem. And so this dilemma always puzzled me because I just couldn't understand. We're always at the bottom of the barrel. So then I began to realize that God had put me on a path which laid me out for something greater. So the suffering of always being criticized as being a light-skinned woman or, you know, having a nice figure just always made me understand why as women we couldn't see the beauty in ourselves first, that it would allow us to begin to attack other women. And so at an early age, I got married, and then I attended the University of Houston studying psychology because I began to study people. And when you watch people, you begin to see behaviors and you begin to just see how people show up in their energy. And so I ended up not completing my degree because at that point I was married and having children. And so, you know, when you're married and going to school and giving birth to children, it just takes you on another path. And so that's when I began to just allow the Spirit to lead and guide me. So after my children got a little older, I went back to William Tyndale Bible College to begin to study psychology because I've always wanted to mentor myself first in learning in the Word of God and then beginning to mentor and share with other young women. And so I took a spiritual counseling course. And so then I crossed paths with Dr. Jewel Pulcrum, not knowing that this was one of the purposes that God was putting me on this path to meet Dr. Jewel Pulcrum. And then I became her private counselor and eventually became one of the facilitators at the Women's Biweekly Support Group. And shortly after that, she offered me a position to be one of the spiritual counselors for women. And we began to start our weekly support group. And it was amazing that most of the women that I counseled were suffering from one form of sexual abuse, whether it was from their fathers or their brothers or from their uncles. And then that kind of led me down another road in seeing the physical and mental abuse of Black women. And so that under Dr. Dewar Pookrum, she began to mentor the staff in terms of how do we deal with the dis-ease in the body, mind, and spirit of Black women, not knowing that this was God putting me on this path. So I began to study under Dr. Jewel Pookrum in counseling women. And then God led me down another path because at this point I was a Christian, but I always studied metaphysics and I knew that there was only one presence and one power and one God. And so I'm in a meeting and one of the sisters handed me a tape and she said, Denise, listen to this tape. And it was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I had never knew anything about the Muslim life. And so at that time, I was practicing under Mother Jean the Queen, which was a metaphysician as well. And so now I'm listening to the tapes of Minister Farrakhan and I'm under the Queen. And the spirit, one night I had a dream and God said, Martha Jean the Queen was my spiritual mother and Minister Farrakhan is my spiritual father and the two shall meet. So, you know, when God gives you dreams like that and you're obedient, you just step out. So I went to the Queen and I said, hey, Queen, I had a dream about you. And so I shared the dream. And I said, you know, God told me that you're my spiritual mother and Minister Farrakhan is my spiritual father and the two shall meet. So she said, well, set it up. So I'm like, okay, not knowing God has put me on another path. So I've reached and researched and found out there was a mosque in Wyoming. And I facilitated the meeting between the Queen and at that time, the minister was Rasul Muhammad. And so it was one of the greatest meetings I've ever seen, but I was so honored that God had used me to put these two great people together. Because if you know how great the Queen was at that time, and for those who were Muslims, you knew how great Minister Rasul was. And so through that meeting, the Queen ended up interviewing Minister Farrakhan on her radio show. And she was surprised to know that the women in Islam were not projected as the way the world projected Black women and walking behind their men. Because Minister Farrakhan is one of the brothers to say, no, brother, your wife doesn't walk behind you, she walked beside you. And so I was impressed with that. And so I ended up sending my young boys to the mosque because I was a single mother at that time. I had divorced her dad. And the minister was saying, when you have young boys, put them in the brotherhood. Give them to men that can help raise them. So I saw, probably within a month, watching my boys just transform into these God men. So I said, I'm gonna have to go in here and see what this is all about. So I got among the Sisterhood of Women there at the mosque and learned a lot about, you know, the roles that women play in Islam and began again my support groups with the sisters there. So I formed another support group at the mosque with the women in Mosque number 1 on Wyoming. And again, I began to see the differences even in the mosque among the women. I still began to see the self-hatred, the jealousies, and all of those things that just kind of separate us as women. And so after that, I started beginning to just kind of move on my own and started just practicing the one presence and power, but not knowing that each one of these spiritual institutions, I picked up the discipline and I took what I needed and left the others. And so again, that was God molding me into this self-consciously aware female. And so then I began to, just on my own, began to have classes with young girls, teaching them about how to become self-aware females. And that to me is when a woman is conscious of who she is, and she connects to that divine source that is within her, all that wisdom and knowledge pours down within us, and then we begin to walk with power. And so my statement that I affirm for myself and for the sisterhood is that women are the true source of all power. And when we walk with that and we understand that that power source is through the womb, and we know, a lot of us know, we have those two wombs. We have the womb that is in our uterus that brings forth the physical being. And we also have that womb that's in that third eye where we visualize and bring and manifest things. And so when I began to walk myself in that, and I saw miracles, I've seen women be transformed. I speak into the universe, life over situations, and see things begin to change. And so in that, all of those experiences led me to today, where my purpose today is to open up a Sisters Healing Sisters Wellness Center so that women can come and learn, first of all, the course that I teach, which is feminosophy. And feminosophy represents femi means female, and nosophy means the study of God. Because in this male dominant society, we have been taught that we come out of the rib of man. But if you're a studier like I am, and God created male and female, he created us both male and female out of the same essence. And I was very surprised to know when I started reading the Quran, that the Quran says that when Allah created us, he created us both out of the essence, out of the same essence. And so that put me on a journey to begin to teach women that we are gods, and that this male chauvinist attitude that has been put across the world, that women came out of the rib of man, made us feel secondary, made us feel like we're not gods. We look to a male gender God when we speak of God. But when you go throughout history, you understand that we have female goddesses. And so as Black women, we walk in the shadows of men. But sisters, think about it. Nothing comes on this planet but through the womb of a woman, whether it's a cat, a dog, any feminine creature that has a womb brings forth life. So what does that make us, sisters? Co-creators with God. But we don't walk like that. We don't talk like that. We don't see each other as a God. So the God in me, I see the God in you. And so until we begin to walk as women with power and we see the gods in one another, our men cannot rise. Our children cannot rise. Our community cannot rise. So in talking with the Queen, we were sharing this conversation, and I said, as women, we have to start moving from a conscious level where we can begin to manifest and affirm and create the world that we're in, because the women all over the planet is waiting for the Black woman to stand in her true identity. And once we understand that we are co-creators and that we are the true source of all power, nothing new can come on this planet, sis. Because when you look at our queens that walked before us, they were making all kind of inventions. We straightened our hair from a Black woman. They got a lot of the biological sciences out of the blood and tissue of a Black woman. So we are the original mothers of the planet. But we are lost because we're not moving from a conscious mindset. And so when I share with platforms of men, and they say, well, what do you Black women want from us? I said, first of all, we want you to honor the womb in which you came from, brother, because that's sacred. And so as we as women, until we begin to understand ourselves, how sacred our womb is, because that's the workshop of God. Everything comes through your womb. Like Elizabeth and Mary, perfect example. These women were so consciously connected to the Creator that when the Creator said, I'm going to bless your womb and you're going to bring forth the Messiah, that was a choice. Like we see our young women today, they have a choice to get rid of what's in their wombs. These women said, okay, I hear you and I obey. and they gave birth to the Messiah, which is what this energy out here, and I'm going to call the energy for what it is, the Caucasian man, is causing young women to not know how powerful they are, because they know that the new Messiah is coming through the womb of the Black females. And so we as women, and I really love to see women come together, because until we come together and begin to re-educate our young women on how sacred their wombs is and how conscious they have to be to make a man qualify to even work to get into that sacred place. That's not something that we need to play with, because the Messiah is going to come through the womb of the Black woman, but it's going to come through that sacred Black woman. When you look at Mary and Martha, these were sacred women. And Mary had the fortitude and the respect to go to an elder woman, which was Martha. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. Please forgive me. Elizabeth. We're talking about Mary and Elizabeth, who were two women that was chosen. But these two women chose God-fearing, God-loving, powerful men to share in their wombs. I just think that was amazing whenever I read the story of Mary and Martha, Mary and Elizabeth. And so under Dr. Jewel Pilgrim, I began to provoke the spirit of Mary. And on my path, under Martha Jean the Queen. So this is why when people come into your lives, it is gathering you to your purpose. So under the Queen, Martha Jean the Queen took a bunch of women to the Holy Land. And while she was there, the Divine Mother appeared to her and told her that until Black women recognize her, she would not lift us up. And so for the senior women that is on this call, if they can remember back in the 80s, that's when Shirley Chisholm and all of the Black women in politics began to become to the forefront, because the Queen came back and created a Divine Lady room at the Home of Love. And I served there and began to study the Divine Lady. And so in my support groups and ministering with women, I provoked the spirit of the Divine Lady in, because sisters, how crazy is it that we have a scripture, we have a Bible that talks about the Son of God, Jesus, but never talks about the woman in which that womb came through. We should be outraged. This woman gave birth to the Messiah. And the only thing they talk about Mary is, well, she gave birth, you know, the Holy Spirit fell upon her. But we're mothers on this call, most of us. And we know that we pour into our children, correct?
Right.
Our children are not who they are until we begin to put into them what God has placed in them for us to bring out. So here we have this powerful woman, Mary. So in my counseling sessions, when I provoke the spirit of Mary, sisters, I've seen miracles take place. I've seen women being delivered from sexual abuse. I've seen women being delivered from physical abuse. So the Divine Lady is here. The feminine energy, as you know, entered this planet in 2022. So mothers on the planet bringing balance. And you know, as women, when we start putting our house in order, it's a big mess first until we can bring the order back, right? So we see that the divine feminine energy is on the planet, and she's wiping out and cleaning out a lot. Look at your world news and see how mother is on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
She's not playing. But look how Black women are rising. Our young Black women are rising. But again, sisters, when we become conscious as females and we begin to collectively come together in love, in spirit, in respect, we will get so angry that what we see our young girls being molded into on the screens, we should be outraged because they're showing our young women as prostitutes and hoes and disguising it under, oh, this is my free sexuality. That's not sexuality. So in one of my support groups, I asked one of the young females, I said, what are you young girls bringing to the table in your generation? She said, sexuality. I had to crack up laughing. I said, girl, black women been showing their sexuality all the while they've been on this planet. I said, and I'm not being disrespectful. I said, but the energy that is out here is taking you away from your divine self. It's taking you away from being that queen because your wombs are being toxic and you're giving birth to toxic children. Because the scripture says you don't let every foul bird come into your holies of holies. So as women, I'm pleading to just each and every woman in this group, mentor young girls and begin to show them how sacred our wombs are, because the Messiah is due to come. And it's only going to come through the wombs of the female. So in my journey, I've come across powerful women who have poured their wisdom in me. And in that wisdom, I share to other young women. And so my passion has become now mentoring young women and bringing them under an umbrella of what I'm manifesting now in 2024 is a Sisters Healing Sisters Wellness Center, where young women who have been trafficked and young women who've spent time in Michigan Department of Correction can come and begin the healing process and releasing and letting go of all the sexual abuse, all of the physical abuse, all of the harm that has been placed in that heart chakras and in their root chakras. And so this institute will begin to teach women about those energy fields and teaching them how to connect to that divine source and the divine lady, so we can begin to walk as queens and healers. Because sisters, right now, we're using the most powerful gift that God has given us in our wombs and in our tongues to destroy not only ourselves, but our men and our sons.
Sister Denise.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me just say, for everyone that's just coming on, you'll see your box, the black box. She's speaking from there, but the picture of Denise in the corner, well, in my corner, she just has yellow on. That's who it is. Her camera is not working, so that you know that that is the person, the one in the yellow outfit. And also, Star, you have a question or comment?
Yes, Miss Denise,
Yes, ma'am.
until you said it today, I didn't know about the second wound. So can you tell me more about the second wound in the third eye?
The third eye is where we begin to visualize and manifest. And women, we're very powerful because we have the ability to see what men can't see, right? You can look into your man and see the gifts and pull it out. We can look into people's behaviors and see whether they're being honest or not honest. And so when you begin to meditate and visualize, you can bring into the physical reality what your mental reality is projecting. And so that's a wound. And so when we have women who have walked before us and they have mentored and moved great men into greatness, like Michelle Obama, Dr. King's wife, Coretta Scott King, and Malcolm, these women saw the greatness in their men. And that comes from that intuitive vibrational energy that is within the female. And that is what that third eye does for those of us who are meditators and we know how to visualize what it is that we want to see. We can create with our minds and bring it into this physical reality. So if I'm visualizing us being whole and I'm speaking into the atmosphere in the universe, that vision will begin to manifest because we are healers. I have a testimony. I have a daughter that at the age of 26, you know, when women get to the point of 25, 26, they no longer feel that senior women can give them the wisdom. So I've never been abused in my life, and I refuse to be connected to a violent man. But my daughter at 26 got pregnant with a guy, and the Holy Spirit shared with me that this man had buried somebody. But my daughter refused to believe that, oh, mom, you know, you just, nobody is good enough. I said, Jackie, I know what I'm seeing. God told me this man buried somebody. So my daughter eventually ended up with this guy, and they had a daughter together. And the girl that he was with when he met my daughter broke off the relationship. This young man, she was going to school, went to the university where she was, and jumped on her and got arrested. They arrested him. He bonded out. He got out and he went back to find this young woman. And when they caught up with him, he was handcuffing this young woman to the arm of his car. Now, at this point, my daughter is living with this man. So he got out. My daughter, being 26, foolish like most of us have been as young women, when they arrested this man and charged him for stalking with this young girl, my daughter was going to testify that he was with her. So we have to be careful with the karmas that we put out. So to give this man 3 years, now my daughter's, you know, having my granddaughter, you know, 3 years go by and I start seeing my daughter open up the door to her daughter's family. I said, Jackie, don't open that door. I said, I've been praying and God got this man out your life. I'm telling you, he buried somebody. Well, she's living on her own. So next thing I know, he gets out of prison. He comes to me and says, you know, sis, I'm sorry, I abused your daughter. I would never abuse your daughter again. So I'm a woman of faith and I believe in the principles of forgiveness. So I released and and forgave him. My daughter ended up letting him move in with her. She started being very, like a lot of young women are, you know, angry and start making unwise choices. So now he tells me, I will take care of your daughter and my daughter. He goes and gets 2 jobs. My daughter now, trying to make him pay like most young girls do, start having guys call the house. This man calls me crying, saying, Miss Avery, I get it, tell my daughter to stop. I'm telling my daughter, you're playing a dangerous game, honey. You cannot do that. If you don't want this man, put him out. She's grown. She's living on her own. Make a long story short, I'm at work one day, and all of a sudden, this feeling came over me, and it just wouldn't let me go. So, you know, most of us are mothers. The first thing we do is what, sis? We get on our knees and we call on source. I kept praying. Nothing was satisfying me. I'm on my way home. I'm heading to my daughter's house because she's the trouble child. Every time I would go to her direction, it was a very snowy day, my car would lose control. After the 3rd time of saying I'm going, and then God makes me lose control again, I said, forget it, I'm going home. I go home, I'm still feeling with this energy. Make a long story short, I get a call, and this is my granddaughter's father on the phone saying, Mom, there was a fire. Right then and there, I knew what I was praying for. I said, what do you mean? He said, Jackie's back there and they're working on her. To make a long story short, now, sis, when I talk about that wound, in my mind and eyes, I started visualizing, not knowing what I was seeing, life into my daughter. I started speaking life into the universe for my daughter, not knowing what I'm about to see, but I knew that God had already prepared me for something. I get there, this young man is in the waiting room saying, that should be back there, that should be me. The doctors come in and says, your daughter may not make it, you know, we're trying to help her. So I immediately did what the Queen taught us. I called my mother to get prayer circles going. And I immediately got off the phone, grabbed this young man, and we started praying. Soon as I got through praying and sat down, the Holy Spirit said, she will recover 100%, and took all fear from me. So by the time my family got there, they were worried with me because I was sitting there so peaceful and calm, because when the Spirit tells you something, like Elizabeth and Mary, you hold on that truth. So now I'm sitting there not knowing what my daughter looks like, not knowing what's happening. And all of a sudden, the detectives walk in, and my granddaughter's father stood up and just put his hands behind his back. This man ended up going to my daughter's house. He sat outside her house all night because she rejected my wisdom. I said, once we got this man out of her house, I said, do not let this man back into your house. That's exactly what she did. He walks into the house. They got to arguing. He beat my daughter severely where he thought he killed her. He stripped her, poured her to the stove, put a flammable solution upon my daughter, set 2 fires at her feet and her head, and placed a blanket over her. He takes my granddaughter, and they drive around for about 45 minutes because he's waiting on this house to be completely burnt. And I believe at this time this was happening, that's when the Holy Spirit was vexing my spirit, because I started praying. He comes back to the house, he opens the door, and all this smoke comes out. My granddaughter at 4 years old gets out the car, runs next door. And to make a long story short, the fire department gets there. He sends them to the very last room, whereas my daughter was in the kitchen. Fire chief comes through. He says he didn't see anything, but he heard a moaning sound. Make a long story short, my daughter lost all of her toes. The doctor said that she will be severely retarded because of the smoke damage and the blows to her head, and that she would never walk again. My daughter had actually transpired on that floor because rigor mortis had set into my daughter's right arm. I didn't see all of these, what had happened to her at the hospital at the time, but I just started speaking over her. So when God told me that my daughter would recover, I never spoke those words out into the atmosphere to no one. And I did not receive it when the doctors were telling me. Because when God tells you something, sisters, let that word go forth. So he says, well, your daughter would never walk again. I said, no, Dr. Bala, my daughter will walk again. Oh, no, your mother would hope. I said, no, this is not hope. This is what I know. So now I'm getting my daughter through these surgeries. I'm praying. I'm doing Reiki healing on her body because I'm knowing and standing in what God told me. Finally gets my daughter home. She's standing there. She's depressed. She's not believing what I'm saying. Jackie, God said, you're going to walk again. I started back to work and I was tired that particular day. And she was just, being evil and mean. And I screamed at her. I said, if you don't, excuse me, sis, this is how I said, if you don't get your ass off this chair, because God told me you can walk again. My daughter got up and been walking ever since. And she has no toes. They said that because he poured a solution on her waist down, he destroyed her nerves in her legs. Mm. My daughter walked for 5 years with her hand locked. And this year, she finally got it unlocked. But my daughter is a miracle because I used my womb in my third eye, visualizing what God told me to do. And I used the power of my tongue to speak life over her.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's wow. What a great testimony, Denise. That is awesome. We are at 10:02 and we have to close the show, but we want you to come back and work on the visual.
Yes.
So we can see, because thank God you're such a good I want to say storyteller, but what is that other word? A person speaks well.
Orator.
Yeah, yes.
Praise
And,
be to God.
we can, yeah, because we can see in our mind everything that you're saying. So we are very grateful for that share and for your life and for your daughter. And like I said, again, we want you to come back and share when everything is up and running.
Yes, I
Record.
apologize.
Yeah. It is what it is. We can still hear it. Lolly, you had your hand up, and if you want to close us out.
I did, and I think that would take us into a whole nother conversation.
Okay. We'll say that for when she comes back.
Yes, yes. But I wanted to say that I got a lot out just from you telling your story. I got a lot out of that. And one of those things was to protect my womb,
Yes.
my metaphorical womb and my physical womb. But I need to protect my womb, especially if I am wanting to be impregnated with these big goals, these big dreams, these big things that are supposed to happen for my life, and I'm supposed to be birthing them. I definitely have to be set apart in order for that to happen. Because it's easily to get distracted by all the other things in the world, the guys, the whatever it is. So I definitely got a lot from that, but I'm excited for when we dive deeper into this conversation the next time you
Yes.
get here. With that being said, y'all, this has been a wonderful Passion and Purpose Friday. If you got something out of it, hold on to it, take it with you, and prepare for our next convo about it. If you didn't get something out of it, it was because you were asleep at the time. It's all right, wake up. It's Friday. It's the weekend. Make sure you walk in your passion and your purpose today and all days. This has been Grand Rising Elizabeth. And I am Lolly. And once again, thank you and happy belated birthday to Queen Aduni and Joy. And yes, thank you. Oh, hugs. Can we hug ourselves?
Yes.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
Oh, yes.
Happy birthday, Queens.
Yes, and hug the world.
The world.
Oh, everybody.
Everybody in the world.
Oh, yes,
Everybody.
yes. Just bring all the goodness and all the passion and all the purpose and all the goodness and all of that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Just one thought, sisters, and hug a tree today. Hug
Oh,
your
yes.
divine mother. Get that energy.
And remember today, the second is the portal. It's open.
Wow.
Say what you want. Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Peace out.
Peace.
Blessings. Thank you.